Today I'm back from gallivanting around the globe and Dan and I have a general catch-up on what we've been up to. Let's deploy. Hello and welcome to Push to Prod. I'm your co-host Cole and I work on Userlot, a tool to help SaaS companies build revenue through customer success.
And I'm your co-host Dan Miller. I'm building a SaaS for the first time and learning as I go. Each episode, we chat about all sorts of things to do with the world of starting, growing and operating software businesses. Today is the 14th of May. Eurovision has just blessed us with its amazing array of performances once again. And this is episode number 8. And Colin is back in the house. Welcome back, Cole.
Hey, thanks, Dan. It feels like at least the last month it's been a repeating topic that I'm not here.
Mate, you're living the life. You're living your best life. Where'd you go this time? Yeah,
so this one wasn't workish. This was total... originally it was just me, so I'll say totally just a vanity trip / a mate's wedding, so into the UK.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I'd never been to the UK, so that was arranged a year ago about, like he got married, asked me to be his best man, that sort of thing. That was for December. He had 2 weddings and he was a bit, why have one when you can have 2 to the same person? But that's because he obviously married a doctor from the UK. So the Australian one was a warm-up wedding and this was the real one apparently.
There you go.
But yeah, so I'd already, because I was the best man at the Australian one, I said to him, hey man, I'm happy to come over and be a groomsman at this one. But I didn't have to do any of the best man duties. So it's, as you guys,
nice.
as if you've ever been involved in weddings, people, yeah, it's great to be the best man or whatever, but it's a lot more work. So this was good. Go to another
nice
country.
To just chill out.
Yeah, no responsibility. Meet new
Very
people, have a few drinks. It was, pretty good. But my 2 daughters ended up tagging along. So like in the last 2 months, they were like,
cool.
Oh, it's not fair. We haven't been overseas since COVID and all that thing. And then so I went, this is a good time just to, they're getting older. They're 16 and 14. It was a good time to just, go travelling with the girls. They just had to get dragged along to some of the things that I'd already planned.
Yeah,
so,
but they would have loved that because they're at the age now when they just start to, do their own thing a bit.
Yeah,
and
they did.
Check the sites out.
Checked it out, went shopping themselves, stayed in the hotel room sometimes. If I was at the wedding, they didn't really care. They're pretty self-sufficient. So, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes, but...
and you timed that well, mate, because it's the exact same time as we have a new king. The coronation happened while you're over there.
That's right.
Did you happen to see any of that?
So not really, a little bit on TV, but I mean, the good thing is I got out, so I was in London the week before, so it was all getting set up and I don't know. So people have told me my first observation of London was, man, it is clean. Like, what the hell? This is really good. And then someone said, the coronation's next week.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's right.
probably partly that. But yeah, we had great weather and everything. And then we left London and then by the look of the TV, the London weather was back to normal and it was raining. I'm glad I got out of there. So that was good. So it was just on TV. I was up north, at a brewery tour, actually.
That's where you should be.
Grooms.
No disrespect to the king and all, but down here in the penal colony, Australia, we kind of don't really follow that stuff too much. I mean, there's a few people that probably do. So going to a bar when it's happening, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and look, it wasn't over the top, at least from where I went. It was like, it made it really idyllic. Like you had all the, the UK flags up everywhere and all the different towns and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's some of that anyway, but it was probably obviously a lot more. But it wasn't in your face. And I think most people took it with this is a cool thing and we get an extra holiday. So,
nice.
Yeah. I don't know about, there's probably controversy around all that stuff as well, but, I didn't really hear any of it. So,
yeah. So you're back. You're back in Australia.
Back.
You're back in the house. You probably got some post-holiday blues, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a little.
Just kidding.
No, it's a little bit. I mean, I did mention a little bit pre-podcast recording there that it's just one of those things. I haven't really gone. So this is probably outside of my wedding, what's it called, the honeymoon that I had, at my honeymoon, which would have been 20 years ago. I don't think I've not sort of worked or got away for more than a week, and then this has been out of 4 weeks I've been away for 3, and the first week was microconf, but at the end of the day, how much real work could you get done when you're traveling and going to conferences and stuff like that? And then if you recall, I came back and I had to sell our house. We just sold our other house, so getting that out, and then I went away. So it's 4 weeks of...
Been having a bit going on.
It's been interesting, and it's a psychological change where you're like, that's fine. It's okay not to be, heads down and
Correct.
smashing out the startup all the time. I mean, obviously we have other guys and girls working in it, so we can do things. And you feel a bit guilty that you're running off around the globe, but. Hey.
By the sounds of it, you haven't really done it that much over the last decade. So maybe rewarding yourself's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you've got to do that. Just have to keep reminding myself that and get back into it tomorrow. So
yeah. How has things been with Userlot when you got back?
Yeah, good. I mean, I haven't caught up with anyone yet at all. I mean, I've had I'll tell you, I've had the jet lag worse than I've had, just haven't been able to recondition the last couple of days. Today was probably okay, but so I haven't caught up with anyone, but we'll do that tomorrow. I did know, I have, remotely been talking to the guys, and I guess one of our big things, which I talked about, which you would probably get into after catching up with you a bit, was some tech challenges that we've been doing around Elasticsearch, and I know we've a bit of a breakthrough in that we may have pulled it out, so that's going to be an interesting chat and see how that goes.
Let's talk a bit about that in a sec. Yeah, for sure.
So how have you been going, and what have you been doing when I was away for 2 weeks?
Oh, doing nothing, Kyle, just sitting around being lazy. No. I've had a bit of a quiet one, actually. I got taken away from building my own stuff for quite some time. It's actually been a bit frustrating. Actually, It's a funny story. Now, as I mentioned previously, we run another business called Trade Guardian, and we outsource, bookkeeping and administration for other businesses. And one of the things we have to do regularly is go to one of the local government websites, and we have to fill in some details there. And it just stopped working for some reason one day. And Kristen says to me, Dan, we can't access this website. What's going on? So I rock up to the office and I noticed it. I'm like, wow, yeah, it's broken. What's going on? So I thought, hopefully there's something not going on with our network set up. So I went in there, checked the DNS. That was all fine.
Is your first reaction to that, just check tomorrow because it might be down? Does that happen like the ATO site, for example, which is the Australian Taxation Office, for those who don't know that? It seems like every time I go to use it, it says, it's just down for maintenance. Yeah.
There was definitely that. That was the first things we check. Check it online, check it on our mobile, check it in some other machine somewhere else. And it was all working. It was so curiously bizarre. So I raced in, checked the DNS settings. That was all fine. And then I went through my thought process going, what could this be? So, as you do some, brainstorming and root cause checking. DNS is fine. What about the firewall? Do we have any weird change settings on the firewall? No, I hadn't touched that. I don't know. So I then started just trying to isolate everything from the ISP all the way through to the machine, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I reckon we're being blocked. Why would a government website block us?
Yeah.
And how do I prove that anyway? So I fired up a VPN session just to pretend I was coming from another IP, because at the same time I could still get into it on my mobile elsewhere. And sure enough, as soon as I fired up that VPN session, bang, I could hit it. I could get to it again. So I was going, right, what is going on, you little buggers? So I contacted them, and I was very polite, of course.
Yeah.
And I said, here's everything I've tried to isolate this problem. Can you please check your side and see what was going on? And sure enough, because we hit them 40 or 50 times a day, and usually they only expect a site hitting them maybe once a day, once every month or so. They thought we were trying to hit them in some way. They thought we were trying to hack them. So they banned our IP address.
That seems so like that's a really good practice to have, obviously, in terms of rate limiting and things.
Yeah. We got rate limited.
50 transactions a day. It seems like a lot.
It's nothing. It's minuscule, right?
Yeah.
So I think they were just being super cautious and careful.
And it might be given the type of data that's in it.
It was.
Yeah,
fair
payroll.
Call.
Yeah.
But I was so frustrated because, it took me days and all this troubleshooting, because in the meantime, I'm, working my day job and doing other things, and I had to come in there in the evenings and try and do all this. And I'm just thinking, great.
I'm surprised that they were able to give you that answer. In terms of someone even being able to, I guess it might be that common maybe that they.
No. They basically palmed Kristen off 2 or 3 times, and eventually I think because I gave him a really polite message and said, here's everything I've tried, can you please look into it, can we please speak to some of your firewall or your networks people and let's talk to them. They handed it straight over, and then we solved it within 30 minutes, so it was fine. But geez, it took me away from my work. And so like I said, I haven't been doing much actually in the last 2 weeks on my own stuff, and it has been frustrating, I can tell you that. But
I know that's a little bit and that's like, even though I've had time off, it's still, you always got it bubbling in the back of your mind. You're like, I know. And Userlot's always been this where it's like, we sort of know what we need to build and we've built most of it, like, apart from these technical challenges, but there's still these other things we want to add to it because, well, they're not it's like the integrations you need to do. Like we don't have a native Google Calendar sort of integration, so you can do task management and all that, but it doesn't sync to your calendar yet. We've got to do that. And you need to do that, but it's like can't get to it because you're trying to fix these other things. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah.
You got all this passion in your head and you're thinking, all these wonderful things I want to be doing, and you just can't. And that's frustrating. Oh, well. Hey, something funny happened while you're away. I listened to Startup Apart podcast, and Michael Coper, one of the hosts on there, he said something very funny. He said we talk really fast, Cole.
Yeah, I heard that one too. I know. And something I thought about that we probably should have said at the top of the show, I guess, that we're going to try and slow down, but
Correct.
I don't know if that's possible.
So, I'm sorry, Michael. I've heard you. Here we go. I'm going to try and slow it down a bit.
It reminds me, there was a comedian, and I cannot remember who it was. I saw a video of it about when he comes over to Australia, he has to get everyone drunk because it's the only way you can understand them. So everyone slows down then.
Well, maybe you and I should start hitting the hard liquor before we record, Cole. I don't know. I don't know if it'll work very well though.
I don't know. I'm quite surprised I haven't had so many beers drinking on podcasts, but I think it's just the time we do it. And I don't know. Yeah. No,
Yes.
it's been challenging and like I don't know. I can get into some of the technical stuff, but
actually, tell us about it. Yeah.
So we've had so like the history of Userlot was actually like at the end of the day, if you don't know what we're like, it does a lot of things, but at its guts, it's a CRM still. So if you think of a CRM, it's all about storing most CRMs, if they're sales related, contacts and sales deals and all that. We store sort of things like that, but we definitely store, users and accounts and revenue and all this sort of things. And one of the other key things with a CRM is, you want really good search and filtering and segmentation. So you want to be able to go, I want to see all my accounts based around this really flexible search engine, because you want to, you might geographically split your accounts, or you might have different, you want to look at them in different subscriptions or tiers or different teams, or like, who knows, that's the whole thing. So you build up a quite dynamic, complex search system that can segment the data, and that once you apply a filter, and we've done it like, I don't know, we like Pipedrive as a CRM, and we've thieved a lot of their ideas. You can basically set a filter at the top right, and it applies to pretty much everything in the entire system you're currently looking at. So the types of data we were looking at originally building, like the original guts of this was a CRM on a totally different vertical, much more regulated, and more data. So we put in some of these things like Elasticsearch and auditing, even change. There's another issue was like, like just auditing, like every time you make a change, storing the diff. And although it's the right thing to do and everything, the whole Elasticsearch thing, it complicates it because every time you change anything, you then have to make sure the index gets updated. And because the entire UI is almost driven by the data that's in the index and not what's actually in the database, you can get into points where it's out of date. So
you're finding that as you evolve your platform, you're making adjustments to the data model, you're adding new fields here and there, that it's causing a bit of drama in the background with Elasticsearch or something like that.
Sort of like that. You've got to adjust all the indexes as well a little bit, but it was more the fact that the search is really fast and everything works, but because we've got real-time events and everything coming into the system, you then are making a lot more decisions about, okay, well, if this comes in really fast, how often do we update the index? And
interesting.
So some things we don't update fast enough, and then that makes it look like it's wrong somewhere else. And anyway, so it makes like, as I said, if you had a normal product and you had 10 developers working on it, it's not a problem. You'd work this stuff out, or you'd have someone working on it. When we only got like 2, and we're not, like, one of them's basically full-time dev. I'm not. It's just been, it works, but then when you start getting, we've ended up with not heaps, so we've got a few MVP clients sending a lot of data in and all this. It started to go, hang on, this is like, there's just little things that just aren't, like, we had to rework more how we index, optimizing that and all this. And so like 6 weeks ago, we're sitting there going, what have we done in the last 6 weeks? Most of us have been fixing these things.
Yeah.
Rather than, like we just talked about, getting some more stuff out that we want to get out. And
frustrating.
Yeah, it was just a bit frustrating. And I thought, like, we could still be doing this we may find that we're still fixing some of these things that aren't like in the next few weeks or months. And we just went, it's not. And then like Linda, one of our co-founders who wrote a lot of it, she's like, I think she's background is database, right? So she didn't originally put the Elasticsearch thing in, and she's like we like it, but she said I could do it in straight to the database, change the search engine back to that, and I could probably do it in 3 days, and then obviously you need to test it all. And so when I was away, I get a message like last week going, I'm pretty sure I've got it working without Elastic. So I'm like, yes, cha-ching. Let's hopefully this week's going to be good. And look, we'll revisit that because we will want some of the benefits of Elastic. But hey, let's do that when we got clients, yelling
good
for
move,
that.
I reckon. If it's taking up so much of your time more than you want it to, and there is an alternative which could do similar work for you, then, and it's going to be a lot less work, then you probably will. Yeah,
and it sucks to do it now, but it's better to do it when you don't have 1,000 clients.
Yeah. That made me think. I've heard Benedict Dyker, who he runs Userlot.
Yes.
It's an email marketing platform. And on his podcast, he mentioned actually for quite a few weeks, he was having a few dramas with search-related stuff as well. It might be worth reaching out to him and seeing if it was a similar sort of situation.
Yeah. He might be going the other way where he's got it and now he has to start thinking about how to opt. Because I talked to Derek Reimer about it as well, and when they were doing Drip, and they were doing most of their segments out of the database, but then started to move things into, document-based, faster searching stuff. So it's just, I think, but that sounds like they went the right way. It was like they were waiting until the pressure was on and then sort of optimized the right bits, whereas we sort of went, well, we think we need it, so let's build it and make most of our stuff flow out of it. And I think that's at least our team size, at least what we've done. I think we're going, let's go back to something that's quicker, simpler. Well, when I say quicker for us to work on. Hopefully it's, And then little things like I was over there and suddenly the prod site went down and I picked up on it maybe, it was in the middle of the night in mostly Australia, so it was probably okay. But that was because the database ran out. And I was like, how's the database ran out of data? And then my first thought was, it's our events coming in. We're storing a lot of events and maybe it filled it up. I did. And then when I looked at the analysis of the tables, it was our auditing change table stuff. So in Ruby, you can just put this thing called paper trail on and it just stores change sets for different things. And just one of our bigger objects, it's just because it's getting updated so much, it was just like bang, 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 bang. And it ended up sucking so much of the data. And we don't have a lot of clients on it. And it's not a big database. I set it to 10 gig or something. But still, I was like, how have we run out of that so quick? And again, there's another example of we put something in which you probably will want, like you want to have auditing and versioning. But I guess there's plenty of startup CRMs that don't have that. It's like, we'll wait till and so turning that stuff off and clearing it out, cool. Those type of things. It's like, so lessons, even though it's our second startup, we need to start thinking from startups and not
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I've built I've got not on every single one of my tables, but I already have the background of some audit tables and some of the stuff I'm building as well. So I'm thinking maybe I don't need to worry about that too much just yet until I figure out how I'm going to deal with it and the impact it's going to have. Thank you for the advice, Cole.
It's one of those, flip side is I've worked on another product which is much bigger and they haven't got it in, and when you're trying to put it in, they went for the simple solution, which is turn it on in SQL Server. So SQL Server can do the history tables.
Yeah.
And that's sort of good, but when you try to programmatically connect to them and do your normal, search. At the end of the day, the auditing through the history tables in SQL Server doesn't pick up. All it does is pick up changes in the database. It doesn't pick up.
Doesn't change why.
Doesn't change
context.
and relationships between them and things. So it's not the solution either. You still run into issues.
It sounds like you guys though have chosen the good journey, a good path there to take. I reckon that'll make Userlot, give you guys the ability to focus a bit more on some more higher value things.
I think that's exactly what we,
Good
we know
move.
there's some things there that we need to get out.
Yeah. And your customers will probably be happy as well when they start seeing some more front of house stuff as opposed to behind the scenes stuff that they don't even know
hopefully
about.
they don't know that we've changed that stuff, because hopefully all it does is make it faster / more resilient. So, well, fingers crossed. I'll update as we go, because to me, that's one of our biggest risk factors. If we don't get that right, then the whole thing doesn't work. So,
Well, in Techland, I've had a little bit of fun this week, actually. Even though I said I had a bit of a frustrating time because I couldn't get onto it, I was able in the last few days just to start playing around building myself a marketing site. I'm not planning on building in public or anything, so I'm not mentioning too much about it yet, but it's still fun to get out there and actually just have a go at this sort of stuff. I've gotten to a point where the thing that I've been building, it's stable enough now for me to say, okay, great, someone could use that and have a bit of play with it. And then I thought to myself, if I actually do put this out there and I do, give it to the world, well, I'm going to need a marketing site. So I've got all the other parts working. Why don't you go and build that? Even though I'm probably not going to release it straight away. I thought it'd be great to just get in there and just, get it going so that if I actually make that decision, I can just switch it on. Yeah. That's been fun.
And so did you, and like when I saw that on Twitter and just in our show notes, I thought, wow, are you going to be launching soon? So that you answered that question, that no, it's just more the journey. But so I guess one of the things I always find that people do when they do that, they either, like in my head, I go set up a whole different marketing site, because that's just in my head. That's what I do. At some point, other team's going to run it. I don't want them tied to the product. Yep. And then you hear the other startups who build it into their product, and at some point they've got to pull it apart. Like, what are you doing?
Separately pulling them apart for sure.
Okay.
Actually, I looked into it and I found there's a bit of a framework called Astro, and the interesting thing with this Astro framework is that it doesn't ship too much JavaScript to the front end, and so it's like super snappy, super fast sort of stuff. It only really ships HTML after it's been built.
Yeah,
and
is that like it's done in JavaScript and all that? Is like React or something, but it builds it? Is that what you mean? Like it's got a build step which then spits out the HTML.
Correct. Yeah, it's got a build step. So you can build it in any sort of different technology stacks that you'd like. Very much JavaScript related, of course.
Yeah.
But once what it does, it sits there and it says, okay, for all the stuff which is just boring vanilla HTML, I'm not even going to ship any JavaScript over. I'm just going to send HTML over, and then only for these small little parts will it send JavaScript over, and it'll only hydrate those. In other words, it'll only make them usable or visible to the end user when you tell it to. So what you end up with is actually a super snappy, fast site, really, really fast. Astro, I've been having a bit of fun with it. Good experience.
Yeah, I've tried, like I say, I've tried Gatsby a couple of times for 2 different websites. I've tended to then go, well, for Userlot we use Webflow, just like just because that way we don't have to do any of that. But it is interesting. Like they're always not as fast as those sort of static site generators. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's what because I've got heaps of other sites for other reasons, and some of them are in WordPress, some of them are in Gatsby, some of them are in other technology platforms, and it's some of the stuff you get. There's too much heavy weight on them, and they just take too long to load certain things. Yeah. And you just think, so static site stuff for me is pretty cool.
I'll have to check that one out, because I haven't. I think I have heard of it, but I haven't actually looked at it. I'm not much of a front end guy, like we've talked about before. So
neither am I, but I'm learning as I go.
I want to get better. Exactly. Yeah. One of the things I want to get better is just like the whole, just the whole product UX stuff. I can't remember if I brought that up yet, but I started looking into some Figma courses and stuff because I feel like that's another place where I use a lot right now with our current founders. We're sort of lacking. We're okay at it, but we're either business or dev. Like we're not product UX UI people, and we've always outsourced that or had a consultant who helps us do the design.
Yeah.
But when you don't have those consultants on for a while, you start doing stuff yourself, and I'm like, we probably need to we should upskill ourselves a bit on this stuff.
Well, you're right. That is one of the reasons why I decided to tackle the marketing site myself. I thought, you know what, I am lacking a little bit in the front end skills.
Yeah.
This would be a way for me to force myself to get better. So I'm doing it. It's fun.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm playing around with Tailwind, which is the front end framework there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Maybe I'll write this down. We should have a topic totally for that entire that sort of whole thing.
That
like
world.
when you're going to choose, are you going to choose
Yeah.
Tailwind or this or that? Because I have my opinions of things, but I'm also not a great UX, UI, as I said, front end one. But am I not good because I have issues with some of the? So like you'll hear the goods and pros of Tailwind versus like React versus something else, or should you wrap the thing, should you not? And I've got so I've got my own questions and thoughts on that. It'd be really cool. I think we could bring up a whole conversation around that. That'd be interesting.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, with technology stuff, I tend to, whether it's back end, front end, database, you name it, my approach tends to be, I think, all right, what's my goals here? What am I trying to achieve? All right, what potential options are there in the technology stack? What is my general overall framework? And therefore, do I exclude certain things because they just don't fit into that framework that I've got? And then I'll say, okay, how much do I know about this? How much information is there available on it online already? How long lasting has it been in the space so far? In other words, I don't really go, grabbing cutting edge stuff, but I will look for stuff if it's coming up and has been around long enough for people to actually put a lot of information available to it. Because then you say, okay, it's stable. People like it. Obviously, it's not ridiculous. It's not falling apart. It's not full of bugs. Yeah, I'll give that a go.
Yeah. I think, look, that sounds so that's sensible and very close to what I do. I tend to be on even more on that conservative side of, and I was trying to describe this the other day saying when you talk to a non-tech founder type person and because we helped with another startup ages ago but we can't help them now and they want to do some more changes and updates, but they're not technical at all. So they're looking at other, agencies, blah, 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 things like that. And it got me thinking about, some of the advice you would give to someone who's not at all technical. And if someone was, going to say, we're going to build it in XYZ, and I was trying to work out a way. I was like, if you picked a tech, if someone suggests a particular tech for a SaaS, here are, say, 5 or 10 core features of a SaaS. And then go out and ask all the, go and find 3 or 4 people that you're considering and get them to answer what framework or library in that stack they're going to use. And if you get, if they're chosen, say, for example, they're all choosing Node stacks, how close are, say the authentication system or what they're going to do with multi-tenanting or all this sort of stuff. And if it's too varying, then you may be choosing a tech that, because devs love new stuff. So that's the problem. And so that's why I say I'm conservative. And if you went and did on the, Laravel or Rails community, you'll probably get a very small, what's called a low standard deviation of different frameworks. But when you went into Node, it's changing now. But like a couple of years back if you did Node, man, there were so many options and there still is. But I feel like there is a little bit it's starting to coalesce a bit, which is why it's such a popular now, framework to kick off.
What makes me think as well in regards to what you just said is there's a funny one which has happened over the years, and that is when it comes to database choices, right? Now, for a while there, back 70s and 80s and 90s, whatever, relational database management systems were pretty much all that there was. RDBMS. So, anyway, I got the acronym wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
And then out of nowhere came the NoSQL land, and that was really came for high throughput, really random, unstructured data, handling that sort of situations because relational databases didn't do that so well. And then you got MongoDB turned up, and then funny thing happened for the last 10 years or so. You'd start seeing people just randomly choosing to build their stacks on MongoDB, and then you'd say to them, explain to me what your choice was there. Why did you choose that type of database? And they couldn't explain it other than it was the new hotness. Yeah. And you sort of think, architecturally, that's probably not a really good choice.
I'm a SQL guy. I think most SaaS companies are building CRUD form based stuff. That should be relational. My view is there's certain elements which would go into a document thing, but again, maybe I'm too conservative. Maybe I don't know, but I just think
it's a matter. There's the right sort of options to choose from, and sometimes things just probably not the best option for the certain scenario you're talking about. But anyway, that just relates to what you're saying. Yeah, developers tend to pick the hotness.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like if you don't know, how do you know they're doing that? And that's what I was trying to come up with, this sort of, I don't know what you call it, but like a structured way to go, do this, do this, do this. And if they answer and come back with these options, then and they're close to each other, then that's the safe tech choice. You know? But otherwise, maybe be prepared that there's a warning flag there. You know,
that seems to be my approach as well. When everything I see online and everything I hear when I talk to other people coalesces towards a certain area, that's where I'll focus. Yeah. There's a reason for it.
One of the other struggles I've had, which over the last, definitely the last 2 weeks when I went away, and I did, it's a personal trip, and so I didn't do a lot of Twitter content, even just obviously not with Userlot and stuff, but even just like, I don't know, like I use Twitter to look at news and stuff, but that's it. Yeah. Like I wasn't like commenting, and I guess it's one of those challenges that I wanted to talk to you about is because I know you're very active, how often and what your process is on Twitter and content, not so much content, but community building your followers, because I've found that I had good success sort of coming up with a bunch of ideas and sort of scheduling them, having them in sort of like, so I knew I was going to do this over the next 2 weeks. And then when I took this last break, I'm like, I don't know what to, I've sort of got an empty bucket, and I'm like,
probably not a bad thing though, right?
To do. Yeah.
Bit of a social media pause, not always the worst thing to happen.
Yeah, but I know it's so crucial to always be consistent, even with the podcast. And yet it's been a struggle, and I'm just like, and like you said, it's probably
always be marketing.
Yeah, it's post-holiday blues maybe, but I'm like, I don't want that to happen again. I need to be better prepared, but
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to use Twitter more for the community side of it, and things just come naturally. I love just chatting to like-minded people, and it seems to happen. I tend to, bundle it up or block it in points in time, so I'm not always on it. Yep. Otherwise, that can just consume you.
Yeah, too much multitasking like pulls you away. Yeah.
And at the same time, I look at it more from just, like I said, just to engage with people, learn about new things, discover new things, chat with people, reply, have a bit of fun with it. I think, seeing it from the fun point of view is what makes you want to keep coming back, really. Because I know that if I was personally trying to just do it for the certain purpose of just being a marketing job, I don't think I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, so have you done that with your other businesses or anything?
Yeah, years ago, I tried getting into LinkedIn quite a bit. Yeah. Man, that's a weird place, I tell you what. Yeah. And I was having a bit of fun with that for a while, but it got a bit dry, and you don't really get as much back and forth engagement on LinkedIn. You really get more just, I don't know, it's kind of like turning on an old school TV and watching ads come down your throat.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, for our community with Userlot, it's the place to be. So we're doing a lot on there. I think there is the good thing is they're quite chatty, so you can, it's a good way to go back and forth. But you're right, like the problem is you go in there to do that, and there's 80% of it now is turning into either ads or people, like this is probably a good thing, but it's turning more into, it's more acceptable to share yourself and what you're doing out of work and all that, which, works for some businesses, doesn't work for others. But it's changing, and I can see this, I could see it being pretty useful, at least for our tools like Userlot, because all the other competitors, that's where it's all done, and which you'd understand, like it's a SaaS targeted at customer success and founder. Well, we're targeting founders too, so they're in that. That's why we're straddling that LinkedIn and Twitter sphere, I think, because that's where they're going to be. But look, to me, it's new. I never really got out there and content marketed when I was with Social Pinpoint too much. So this is why we're trying to change it. I just have noticed I've definitely dropped off over this last 4 weeks while I've been traveling.
Don't beat yourself up, Cole. Yeah. You've had a lovely break, and I'm sure you earned it.
It's a long journey. I keep reminding myself it's the journey. It's not like it's not any one thing. So yeah. No, totally.
Well, I do know that a little bit of it's working because we got listed on the Great Australian Pods directory recently.
I saw that.
So people actually are sort of picking up and hearing what we're doing. So look, if this is the first time you're listening to us, welcome and thank you for joining us. I hope we haven't bored you too much with some of the tech stuff we're talking about, but that's what Colin and I are here to talk about. We have a bit of fun with it. So You know,
it's just us. I mean, we tried so many different things, haven't we? This is definitely more of a catch up. We weren't. Like, I only just got back, so me and Dan haven't planned future episodes totally. But like I said, we'll come up with some specific topics. But this was just have a bit of a chin wag, really, on Mother's Day, wasn't it? So, which we should have had a shout out to the mothers that are out there,
all the mums
and the other
there.
mother founders and stuff.
I hope you've had a lot of not much to do today, mums. You earned it. I reckon that's probably getting close to the end, Cole. I think that's been a good catch up. Yeah,
it's been really good. So, and yeah, I'd love feedback too if anyone had it on our last episode as we build out that SaaS production hosting series. That would be cool to hear more about that. And look, I'm going to jump back in now into the socials and see what I know. There was a lot of notifications on the Push to Prod Twitter, which you're probably kept on top of, but I hadn't. So I'm going to jump in there and probably make some mentions over the week, and hopefully we'll see people next week. Cool.
Well, thanks, Cole. It's been awesome. Everyone, thanks so much for listening. As always, if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us at pushtoprodpod@gmail.com, or you can also hit us up on Twitter at pushtoprodpod. I'm Mr. Dan Miller on Twitter, and
I'm at Gomo on Twitter.
Cool.
Yes. Please just leave us a rating too on all the, whatever you're consuming us on, Apple Podcasts, whatever, Spotify. Give us a 5-star. And until next time, Dan, I'll talk to you next week.
Nice one. Thanks, Cole. It's good to see you back in the country, and we'll talk to you again next time. See you, mate.
No worries, mate. I'll stay here for at least a few months. Cheers. See you.
All right.